let's talk about some All-Americans. Get the hell out of here. So I feel like part of my job here at Barstool now is to bring some Big J journalism to this outfit, and I think part of that is like you see this is the time of year where these college basketball teams are tweeting out graphics that like their player got put on the Sporting News. He's been named a All-American, fifth team All-American honorable mention on the sportingnews.com, all that sort of thing. So it's one of my goals to get that with Barstool. I want to be the representative that's like naming All-Americans, so that way maybe we can get some great, like we can be like a real Big J. You know what I mean?
What you're about to do is the Barstool Sports.
That's what I'm stepping up and saying. Yeah, I'm speaking on behalf of the entire company. This is the Barstool Sports. I asked nobody. I'm doing this myself. Maybe it's just the Mark Titus show then. Maybe I don't need to speak on behalf of all of Barstool Sports. I'll just do it myself, Like maybe I'm swinging too big.
The official All-American, yeah. The one and only All-American list. Others are lies.
I do have a Wooden vote, by the way, a Wooden Award vote. This is true.
Really?
I have a Wooden Award vote. And Brandon Miller is not eligible. He was not named one of the finalists because of his off-court situation, we'll call it. But we'll get to that in a second. I do have a vote at the end of the year. I don't think you don't vote on All-Americans. You just vote on the one player I think that you believe is the best player in the country.
I wonder if Brandon has a Heisman vote.
Brandon Walker?
Yeah.
Huh. We should ask him. I wonder. All right, here's my All-American team. I think it's pretty simple. I think the top four are locks. I think anyone who doesn't have the top four on your first team All-American team, you're a bozo. You're a certified bozo. And the four are Zach Edey, Brandon Miller, Trace Jackson Davis, and Jalen Wilson. Now, like I said, you can have Brandon Miller off your Wooden Award watch list. If you're one of those outfits, it's like we care about the quote-unquote student part of student athlete, or we care about like quote-unquote not being an accessory to a murder situation. If that sort of thing is important to your criteria for naming All-Americans, I understand that. It's your prerogative. You can do that. I'm listing to you who I believe to be the 5 most talented basketball players in college basketball this year. Edey, to me, is who I'm going to vote for Wooden Award. Spoiler alert, that is not much of a surprise. There was a moment there where Indiana fans thought Trace Jackson Davis had a shot to beat Zach Edey for Big Ten Player, and I still think he did by the end. I think if they would have done you wouldn't have got much argument out of me. But in terms of National Player of the Year, it's Zach Edey, and it's been Zach Edey for most of the year, and that's not even like I think if you're someone who doesn't love Zach Edey, maybe you're looking at this and you're saying you crowned him in November and then you just got lazy and said he never lost it, when really if you would have like not crowned him so early, maybe you would have given the award to someone else. To that I say wrong. This man was dominant in a way we've not seen a big man be dominant in college basketball in a long time. I mean, I genuinely, Purdue fans will take this the wrong way because every single time I talk about Purdue, no matter what, I could say Purdue will win the national championship by 48 points, and they'll say, why do you not think we could win it by 50, Titus? Are you a hater? So they're going to take it the wrong way, as they always do. But I truly believe Purdue is like not even a 500 team if Zach Edey's not on this team. Yeah. I do not think they finish 500 without Zach Edey, which is less about like how much I hate their team and more that like this man is that good, that he carried this team to a number 1 ranking for like over half the season. 22 points a game, 13 boards a game, 2.3 blocks, never really fouled, is hardly ever in foul trouble. 73% free throw shooter, which is really impressive for a 7'4" guy. He is like, if you want to go by like the most valuable, quote unquote, he's clearly the most valuable guy. Cause like I just said, I think Purdue's not even definitely not a tournament team, but maybe not even 500 without him. I think he might be the most valuable college basketball player since Anthony Davis, maybe. I don't know. Doug McDermott, Frank Kaminsky. Like I'm trying to think of guys that like if you took them, like they had great teams, and if you took them off the team, they would be absolute garbage. I don't know. Anthony Davis is is the one guy. I know it stops there in 2012. Maybe there's someone else. Maybe you could say Kaminsky or McDermott or so. I don't know, but that's how good Zach Edey was. I think Zach Edey was really, really good, and I had a lot of fun like joking about how he's tall and twisting, I don't know, screwing with Purdue fans here and there. But like you can't deny the man's greatness, his efficiency, and just how much he improved over the season. So Zach Edey is my player of the year. He's definitely on the All-American team. Brandon Miller, I don't know. He shooting 40% from three on over 7 3 attempts per game is absurd for a freshman. It's absolutely insane. For a guy of his size to do it makes it even more insane. He had the legendary game at South Carolina where he scores 41 points, hits the shot to send it to overtime, hits the game-winning shot in overtime. I continue to think this. I don't know what the future holds for this Alabama team, but I continue to think that Alabama at their best is better than everyone else at their best. And Brandon Miller's why. If they do in fact go to a Final Four, go to a national championship, it is because he is going to elevate his play to an otherworldly level. He is the most talented, the most raw talent player in the country. I don't think there's any denying that, and he'll be the first college basketball player to hear his name called in the NBA draft. So that one's kind of a no-brainer. Like I said, there was if you want to do the off-court thing, like I get it. I'm kind of, I don't mean to downplay that situation, but also it's like, I don't know, that's not my domain, like I'll leave that to other people to figure out. For me, the dude his talent's undeniable, so I'm throwing him on my All-American team. Trace Jackson Davis can't go right, still doesn't have a jump shot, somehow could not be stopped this year, and elevated his play from like being a pretty good, like he went from like a pretty good Indiana player to an all-time legend who, if Indiana retired jerseys, he would have his jersey retired, no question about it. He finally started trusting his teammates. Indiana found a way to he's such a fascinating player because, like I said, like he's got such obvious limitations, and yet he was dominant this year, and really played his way into getting drafted. Like I think he's going to hear his name called in the NBA draft now. Where coming into the season, like part of the reason he kept coming back to Indiana was that he didn't have an NBA game. He still kind of doesn't. I don't know how it's going to work, but he was so good at everything else that it overshadowed his lack of a jump shot. And I don't know. His defensive instincts were incredible. He averages 4 assists per game. I don't know. You kind of run out of things to say about Trace because he just defies logic when you watch him play, and he gets double teamed and he just like palms the ball and he's sticking it, like waiting for the double team to clear. Oh, the double team's not going to clear. I guess I'll just like whip a pass across the court to a wide open Trey Galloway for 3, and it makes no sense. If you watched Indiana play the first 3 years, that Trace Jackson Davis was there, you might think that he was just a stat patter and he was on some terrible teams. But now it's starting to become clear he just like never really had much talent around him. And when he finally got some guys that can play around him, it is taking his game to the next level. And then Jalen Wilson, 20 points a game, 8.4 rebound. I think Kansas is pretty obviously going to be a 1 seed. I don't know if they'll be the number 1 overall seed, but coming into this year, I think if I remember right, Jalen Wilson shot like 30% from the 3-point line last year. And the only way Kansas is going to be good this year is if he figured out how to consistently be a threat from outside and consistently hit enough threes. He ended up shooting, I think, like 34% from 3. So he wasn't like, lights out like Brandon Miller was. But he stepped up his game in that regard, became like a great leader, great just carried. There was the game at Kansas State where he had 38 points with 3 starters fouled out, and that was just like a quintessential Jalen Wilson game where he just put the team on his back. They ended up losing, but like it should not have. It should have been over like the second these guys started fouling out, and Jalen Wilson was just balling out of his mind. So Bill Self to me at this point has shifted. Part of what makes Bill Self so fascinating is that he has shifted away from being like an X's and O's guy where every time you watch Kansas play, it looks like Bill Self's like drawing up plays in the sand and these guys then execute those plays. He still does that. He's still great at timeout and baseline out of bounds and all that sort of thing. But what he's really become great at in recent years is he's gone away from teaching like set plays to his guys to he is now teaching how to just read and just play basketball. And this is something like Jay Wright was great at, and he was like a pioneer, so to speak. Like this is stuff like the NBA guys have been doing forever, but Bill Self has given the Kansas players freedom in a way that he never really had before, outside of like his point guards. And the only way you can get away with doing that is if you have a guy as talented as Jalen Wilson, is what I'm getting at. So Jalen Wilson, it goes beyond the stats. He's been the best player on Kansas, and Kansas might end up repeating as national champions. I don't know. We still have to see what the hell's going on with Bill Self and his health, because they're playing that kind of close to the vest. All right, so that leaves. Let me get another drink of water. Oh my God, TJ, what's going on?
They did say Bill Self's out the whole tournament. So
the NCAA tournament too?
No, Big 12.
Oh, Big 12 tournament.
At least.
That's just through the weekend. Maybe he'll be back. I don't know. They were saying heart attack at first.
They put out an update that said it's definitely not a heart attack.
It's definitely not a heart attack?
Underwent some sort of procedure.
Why am I sweating so much?
They turned the AC off after midnight.
That's what happened. Okay, I'm sweating like crazy. That's why I'm huffing and puffing and woof. All right, we'll get through this. So the fifth pick to me is it's three guys. It's West Coast guys. It's Jaime Jaquez. It's Azuolas Tubelis. It's Drew Timme. I think it's one of those three guys. Tyler Kolek has a case, I guess. Jalen Pickett's been awesome for Penn State. I don't think the team was good enough to really make his awesomeness matter to that level to get him to the first team All-American level. He's great too. I don't know. There are a lot of different guys. To me, it came down to the final three. I thought long and hard about it. And ultimately, I landed on Jaime Jaquez. First of all, the other two guys are defensive liabilities in a way that Jaquez isn't. Secondly, Jaquez and UCLA are the better team, and the reason they're the better team is because of him. I don't know. We're kind of splitting hairs at this point. If you like one of the other two guys, I'm not going to get too upset. But Jaquez is, I know it's not a lifetime achievement award, but he is the heart and soul of UCLA and has been for years. And you sit like as a guy who believed until Jalen Clark went down that UCLA might be the best team in the country, and they still, like I've been saying, I still think they have the goods to win the national championship. It's just going to be obviously a lot harder now. The fact that Jaquez is that team and finds a way to have an impact on games, even when one facet of his game is not working on that particular night. You can't say enough about the guy. Like if you want to do it the way you're like, if you had 5 Jaime Jaquez's, you might go undefeated, if you're doing that deal. Like the aliens, what's the hypothetical if the aliens come down and challenge us to a game of
Are you doing Max Kellerman? I want Iguodala.
I want Iguodala. Yeah, that's what it was. If the aliens come down and they're like, you have to clone someone and play.
They said one shot to save the fate of the universe. They got the death beam pointed at Earth. I want Iguodala.
No, if you had a team full of Jaime Jaquez's, you would have one hell of a college basketball team, and he's just a special treat. And hearing him talk after the Arizona, after his senior night, in Arizona, when he was talking about how tickets used to be $2 when he got there, and he was Mick Cronin's first class, and again, I understand that like that this isn't why I think he belongs on this year's All-American team, because it shouldn't work that way where it's a career achievement, but I think he is one of the 5 best players in the country. He won Pac-12 Player of the Year over Tubelis because his team was better, but I think he just has more of an impact on both sides of the court. Timme is a defensive liability, and Tubelis is basically right there with him, and that should matter as well. So I had Jaquez as my 5th All-American. Coach of the Year, I'll be honest, I think Coach of the Year we should just wait till the national champion. This is one of the best takes I have. I believe that the Coach of the Year every year in college basketball should just be whoever wins the national championship, because that's what every coach is trying to do, and the guy who does it is the only one that did, and he should therefore be the best coach in the country. But for some reason, it doesn't work that way. I had 5 names written down. Rodney Terry and Jerome Tang in the Big 12 are 2 guys that got a lot of love. Depending on what publication you're looking at, I think both of them were winning Big 12 Coach of the Year. Certainly, some were winning National Coach of the Year. My problem with both of those guys, so Rodney Terry takes over for Chris Beard. Very weird situation. Gets Texas to be the 2 seed in the Big 12. They're probably going to be a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. They could go to a Final Four very easily. So he's done a great job of keeping that ship afloat. And Jerome Tang loses Nigel Pack in the transfer portal, picked to finish last in the Big 12, makes Kansas State. I forget how high they got ranked at one point, but they've been top 10 for a fair chunk of the season. My problem with both of those guys is that they ultimately didn't win anything. And I guess like that's just a me problem. But like I said, like I kind of think like I don't know. Like it doesn't really make sense to me for you to be coach of the year if you didn't actually win your conference or win. I don't know. I've never really understood that. And that is to say, I still don't understand how, I don't understand how Chris Collins won Coach of the Year over Matt Painter in that regard. Matt Painter won the Big Ten, and Matt Painter he lost Jaden Ivey and Travion Williams, and won the Big Ten still with 2 freshman guards. It makes no sense to me. I thought that was the goal. I thought we were going into every season saying, how do we win the Big Ten? How do we win the Big 12? How do we? So I think Rodney Terry and Jerome Tang can't win. And for me, I would not vote for the national player or national coach of the year. I would vote for Bill Self out of the Big 12, not only just because he won, but because of the circumstances around Bill Self, losing what he lost from the national title team, basically had no shooting coming back. He did have Grady Dick coming in, but there were a ton of question marks around Kansas. Not like Kansas was going to be terrible, but I certainly think Kansas being positioned to be a 1 seed, maybe the number 1 overall seed in this tournament, is super impressive. So I think Bill Self is above the other two, but at the same time, Matt Painter, to my mind, should be above Bill Self because Matt Painter had way less to work with and still got to a similar level that Bill Self did. So I think Matt Painter's above Bill Self. And all that is to say, I don't even think Matt Painter should win it. At the end of the day, I'm voting for Shaka Smart because Shaka Smart, you want to talk about like had nothing to work with, still found a way to win the Big East, lost his top 2 scorers, brought in no transfers. Last year they went 19-13. They lose by 32 in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And basically he lost his top 2 scorers and he still somehow won the Big East. That's insane. And I don't, for me, it was that's where I landed on. It was Shaka Smart. What he made this Marquette team. They have, as I think Steve said it on the show today, they've been overachieving. And the reason they've been overachieving is because he's putting his guys in spots to be successful. Whether they could lose in the first round again by 32, and I still think he should be coach of the year because, again, they won the Big East by multiple games. So there you go, TJ.
I think, yeah, I would have voted for Chris Collins just because Northwestern had like no expectations. But yeah. I think every coach you mentioned is a good option there.
If I don't know, maybe I'm just a hater.
They finished second in the Big Ten.
I know, but
it's crazy because they were playing.
I just it's ultimately my gripe with this stuff is ultimately that I don't know what coach of the year is supposed to be.
Right? Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense because like player of the year is pretty obvious. Like you can watch and say who are the best players, and we all are like, well, the guy that's like kicking ass out there, and we all kind of like whether you agree on it or not, you kind of agree on like what we're looking for out of player of the year.
That back up a player.
Coach of the year is like it's just the haziest, weirdest like feel good story type deal, but also like and it's so weird because it's never. This is way too much Ohio State talk on this show, but it's the only example I can think of. There's like a thing where like no Ohio State football coach ever wins coach of the year in the Big Ten,
even though they win the Big Ten.
And that blows my mind. How like if you polled all the coaches and you're like, who's the best coach in this conference? Maybe not every year, but they'd be like probably the guy that's making $9 million a year to coach football and wins this league seemingly every year. Not the case. It's the guy who was picked to win 4 games and oh my God, he won 6. Coach of the year.
It's most valuable coach.
Yeah.
It's not best coach.
So that's why for me, it's like you have to win something. I don't know. That's like my first standard is like, did you win your conference at this point? Did you win your conference tournament? We haven't seen who's won the conference tournament. So all I'm going off of right now is, did you win your regular season conference? I don't know. But apparently that's not how people see it. They're like, if you were picked last and you finished 3rd, congratulations. But Marquette was picked 9th, and they won the Big East. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, TJ. That's pretty good. They actually won it. It's a lot harder to win the conference than to get second in the conference.
It is. That Northwestern finishing second is such like a fraud second, too.
It's such a fraud.
If they lose to Rutgers in the last game, they were 9th.
They were 9th. They were 1 game away from 9th. But with the imbalanced scheduling and all that, it's like I win the damn conference if you want me to consider you for coach of the year. That's my. But ultimately, whoever wins the national championship, you're my coach of the year. But as of right now, I got Shaka Smart. All right, finally, last thing I want to do, make shots all-star. So, you have to make shots to win at this level. So basically the genesis of this idea was talking so much about how much I love David Singleton in the last couple shows and Jordan Hawkins. I was like, I should put together my all-star team of guys that I just like was obsessed with watching play because I just love watching shooters and especially at the college level where you hear all the time from NBA people that what sucks about college basketball is these dudes just clank wide open shots. So to see guys like Jordan Hawkins, I watched at the Garden today, curling off of screens and just shooting with the hand in his face, wet jump shots. It's so awesome, so fun. So I wanted to put together my list of names. First of all, Brandon Miller was ineligible, not because of the other, but because he's too good of he's too good of like an all around player. I think you can't be on my All American team and my make shots All Stars. So Brandon Miller was like a knockdown shooter, but he's too talented. That's not the spirit of the. That's not what I'm trying to do here. Number 1 is David Singleton. He shot 43% from 3. He's a career 44% three-point shooter over 5 years, almost 500 attempts. This guy never missed. Every single time I watch UCLA play, he makes every single shot. So he must just miss when I'm not watching. I don't know. I freaking love him. He's my favorite player in college basketball. He's the captain of the team. David Singleton on the Make Shots All-Stars. Number 2, obviously Jordan Hawkins, probably my second favorite player to watch in college basketball. Doesn't shoot as quite as high of a clip, 38.5%, I think this year is what he ended up being in the regular season on 7.5 attempts per game. But I will say about Hawkins, he's taking way tougher shots than anyone else on this list. He was asked to take just like absurd shots because he was UConn's go-to guy. Freaking love the guy. And I agree with Steve that I think he's going to have a March moment. I don't know when it's going to happen. It might be in this Big East tournament. It might be in March Madness. I don't know. But this man is built for this UConn team I love, and he's a huge reason why. Number 3 on the list is a joint effort from the Baylor guys, Adam Flagler and LJ Cryer both. I went back and forth on which guy I should put on the list, and then I decided I'm just going to put them both on the list. They both shot over 40% from 3. They both jacked a ton of threes. Baylor lost to Iowa State again today. That tells me they're very fraudulent, that they lost to Iowa State twice, an Iowa State team that the wheels are supposed to be falling off. But then now they've beaten Baylor twice in a week. So what does that tell you about Baylor? But they are a fun team, and they hit a ton of threes, and Cryer and Flagler are so fun to watch, and I could watch those dudes shoot threes all day. But unfortunately, I don't think we're going to watch too much more of them because they don't play any defense, TJ. So enjoy it while you can. Number 4, I'm doing another joint one. The Penn State guys, Andrew Funk and Seth Lundy. Freaking awesome. I love this Penn State team so much. They live and die by the 3, obviously. So I don't know what the future holds for them either, because they can lose by 20 or they can make really good teams look really stupid. Playing their booty ball. I don't know. Tonight, Funk was 6 from 9 from 3. I think he was incredible. Both of those guys are just like they are when they are on. They are one of the most fun teams to watch in college basketball. And that's why I think Michael Shrewsbury is going to get a big-time job. Finally, I'm putting Courtney Ramey on my team. Arizona, they play such a fun brand of basketball. And him and Kirk Kriisa, I've been talking about it all season. I don't know how much I actually am going to trust them in March. But when Courtney Ramey was open this year for Arizona, the ball was going into the basket. And playing an up-tempo style for Tommy Lloyd was a ton of fun to watch. So he's the fifth member. So it's Jordan Hawkins, it's David Singleton, it's Courtney Ramey, and then it's basically Adam Cryer. I'm combining them into one person, and Seth Funk is what I'm doing for Penn State. So there you go. That's it. That's all I had. I just wanted to shout those guys out, TJ. I love shooters. If you make shots, I love you. So I love all those guys. Seth Funk and Adam or LJ Flagler and Adam Cryer. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to mix their names together to make them one person.
I like Seth Funk.
Seth Funk's a good name. That'd be a good name.